The midnight visitor. Why fear arrives when we sleep. Welcome. Pause for a moment, close your eyes and breathe deeply. Right now, in this very instant, your mind is capable of extraordinary things. Have you ever wondered why fear visits you in the darkness of night? Why the most vivid, intense emotions often arrive when your body surrenders to sleep? Tonight, we explore something that transforms how you understand yourself. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to the Relaxing Science channel. Give this video a gentle like and share with us where you are listening from and what time it is there. When darkness falls and your head touches the pillow, something remarkable begins. Your conscious mind steps back and deeper parts of your awareness emerge. For many, this transition brings peace and restoration, but for others, it brings something far more intense. Nightmares that shake you awake, leaving your heart racing and your skin covered in a thin layer of cold sweat. These nocturnal visitors feel like enemies. They seem to arrive without reason, to torment us for no purpose. We resist them, we fear them, we wish them away. But what if we have misunderstood their nature entirely? The midnight visitor that disturbs your sleep is not an enemy. It is something far more profound. It is your mind's most dedicated guardian, working tirelessly in the darkness to protect you. This concept challenges everything we have been taught about nightmares. We have been conditioned to see them as failures of the mind, as signs of weakness or illness. Mental health professionals have sometimes treated them as symptoms to suppress. But this perspective misses something essential about how human consciousness actually works. Consider for a moment what happens when sleep arrives. Your body becomes still, your muscles relax, your breathing deepens and slows. In this state of vulnerability, your conscious defenses lower. The part of your mind that maintains control during waking hours releases its grip. And in this opening, deeper layers of consciousness become active. These deeper layers are not interested in the surface concerns of your daily life. They are not worried about your email inbox or your social obligations. They are concerned with something far more fundamental, your survival and your psychological safety. When your conscious mind sleeps, your brain does not rest. In fact, it becomes extraordinarily active in different ways. Regions associated with emotion become hyperactive. Networks responsible for memory processing light up like constellations. And the threat detection systems that keep you alive become highly sensitive. This is the beginning of understanding why nightmares exist. They are not random electrical misfirings in a sleeping brain. They are purposeful messages from the deepest layers of your consciousness, communicating in the language it knows best: emotion and imagery. Think about the last nightmare you experienced. Perhaps it involved being chased. Perhaps it involved falling. Perhaps it involved loss or abandonment or something more personal. Whatever the specific content, the feeling was real. Your body responded as though the threat were genuine. Your amygdala, the ancient alarm system in your brain, activated fully. Your heart rate increased. Your breathing became rapid. Your muscles tensed. This response feels like a malfunction, like your mind playing cruel tricks on you. But it is actually evidence of something working perfectly, a system designed to prepare you for threat. Throughout human history, nightmares have served a vital function. Our ancestors lived in genuine danger. Predators roamed in darkness. Rivals threatened their survival. Illness and injury were constant possibilities. In this environment, the ability to rehearse threats during sleep was not a luxury. It was essential. A person who practiced escape scenarios in their dreams had a better chance of surviving an actual predator encounter. A person whose mind rehearsed various threats could respond more quickly and effectively when danger appeared. Nightmares were training sessions. They were survival practice. They were the brain's way of saying, here is a threat you need to be prepared for. This evolutionary purpose has not disappeared simply because we now live in modern, relatively safe environments. Your brain still carries the same architecture that served your ancestors. It still detects threats with remarkable sensitivity. It still activates the same protective mechanisms. But now these mechanisms are responding to modern threats: psychological threats, social threats, emotional threats. A nightmare about being unprepared for an important presentation is your mind rehearsing how to handle pressure. A nightmare about losing someone you love is your mind processing the genuine vulnerability of attachment. A nightmare about failure is your mind preparing you to navigate setbacks. The intensity of nightmares often makes them seem disproportionate to waking life. You wake from a dream about falling, and your heart pounds as though you had actually fallen from a building. You wake from a nightmare about being chased, and your body is flooded with adrenaline as though an actual predator had been pursuing you. This intensity is not a bug in the system, it is a feature. Your mind is not trying to be subtle, it is trying to get your attention. It is trying to ensure that the message registers deeply in your consciousness. The more intense the nightmare, the more important the message. What you are experiencing when you wake from a nightmare is not failure, it is communication. Your mind is speaking to you in the only language it can use while you sleep. It is saying, "This matters. This threat, this fear, this vulnerability is significant enough to warrant your full attention." It is saying you need to understand this. You need to integrate this. You need to prepare yourself for this possibility. Understanding this transforms the experience entirely. Instead of viewing nightmares as something to suppress or medicate away, you can begin to view them as information. They become messages from your deeper self, trying to help you navigate life more effectively. They become evidence that your mind is working, processing, protecting. They become proof of your brain's dedication to your well-being, even in the moments when it feels most frightening. As we move deeper into this exploration, you will discover how your nightmares encode specific information about your life. You will learn the language your mind uses to communicate with you. You will understand why certain themes repeat and what those repetitions mean. You will discover that the very thing you have feared most in your sleep is actually your greatest ally. You will learn to listen to your nightmares, not with dread, but with curiosity. And in that listening, you will find wisdom, resilience, and a profound connection to your own inner strength. The journey from fear to understanding begins now. Stay with me as we explore the ancient intelligence that protects you from the darkness. The ancient brain. Understanding your evolutionary guardians. Deep within your skull, beneath layers of newer neural tissue, lies something ancient. It is older than language. It is older than conscious thought. It is a brain within your brain, and it has been protecting you since before you were born. This is your limbic system, and it is the primary architect of your nightmares. Understanding this ancient guardian is essential to understanding why fear visits you at night. When you look at the human brain from an evolutionary perspective, you're looking at a structure built in layers. The newest additions are the cortex, the regions responsible for rational thought, language, planning, and conscious awareness. These areas make you human in the way we typically think of humanity. They allow you to read books, solve complex problems, and contemplate your own existence. But beneath these newer structures lies something far older, the limbic system, sometimes called the emotional brain. And beneath even that lies the brainstem, the most primitive part of your brain, responsible for basic survival functions like breathing and heart rate. This layered structure is not a flaw in design, it is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. Your primitive brain has kept your species alive for millions of years. It detects threats faster than your conscious mind can perceive them. It triggers protective responses before you are even aware that danger exists. It is a system so effective, so sensitive, so dedicated to your survival, that it works even when you are asleep. In fact, it works especially effectively when you are asleep, because that is when your conscious mind is no longer overriding its ancient wisdom. The limbic system operates according to principles very different from your conscious mind. It does not deal in logic or rationality. It deals in survival. It asks one primary question: is this safe or is this a threat? Every experience you have, every perception, every memory is filtered through this ancient alarm system. When you encounter something that resembles a threat, your limbic system responds immediately. It does not wait for your conscious mind to analyze the situation. It does not pause to consider whether the threat is real or imagined. It acts. It prepares your body for fight, flight, or freeze. During sleep, your conscious mind is offline. The rational cortex that normally keeps your primitive brain in check is less active. This is why nightmares can feel so overwhelmingly real, so physically intense. Your primitive brain is running the show. It is processing threats without the filter of conscious reasoning. It is rehearsing survival scenarios without the interruption of logic. And because it is not constrained by the rules of waking consciousness, it can process multiple threats, multiple scenarios, multiple possibilities, all in the span of a few minutes. This ancient brain remembers things your conscious mind has forgotten. It remembers every moment of fear you have experienced. It remembers every threat, every loss, every moment of vulnerability. These memories are not stored as narrative facts that you can consciously recall. They are stored as patterns of activation, as emotional residues, as deep bodily memories. When something in your current life resembles these old patterns, your ancient brain recognizes it immediately. And in sleep, when your conscious mind is not supervising, it brings these patterns to the surface. Think of your limbic system as a security system for your mind and body. Like any good security system, it has been calibrated by experience. If your house has been broken into, your security system becomes more sensitive. It might trigger alarms at sounds that previously would have been ignored. This is not a malfunction. This is the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is protecting you based on what it has learned. Similarly, if you have experienced trauma, loss, or threat in your life, your limbic system becomes more sensitive. It detects dangers more readily. It triggers protective responses more easily. This hypersensitivity can feel like a burden. You might wish your ancient brain would relax, would trust that you are safe now, would stop sounding alarms about things that seem trivial. But from the perspective of your primitive brain, this makes perfect sense. It has learned that threats are possible. It has learned that danger can arrive unexpectedly. It has learned that the cost of being too relaxed, of missing a threat, is far higher than the cost of being overly cautious. So it remains vigilant. It remains sensitive. It continues to rehearse threats in your dreams. The specific content of your nightmares is generated by this ancient brain drawing on everything it knows about threats. If you have ever experienced being trapped, you might have nightmares about being trapped. If you have experienced abandonment, you might have nightmares about being left alone. If you have experienced failure, you might have nightmares about failure. But here is the crucial insight. These nightmares are not trying to hurt you. They are trying to prepare you. They are your ancient brain saying, I have learned that this particular threat exists. Let me rehearse with you how to handle it. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure in your limbic system, is particularly active during nightmares. This is the brain's threat detector. It is constantly scanning for danger. During sleep, it becomes hyperactive. It is not constrained by the logical analysis of your cortex. It can generate vivid scenarios of threat. It can activate your entire body's alarm system. It can create the physical experience of terror. But it is doing this not out of malice. It is doing this because it believes you need to practice. It believes you need to be prepared. Many people experience recurring nightmares, the same frightening scenario playing out night after night. This repetition seems cruel, seems like punishment, but it is actually evidence of something important. Your ancient brain is trying to communicate something that you have not yet fully understood or integrated. It will keep bringing the same threat back until you comprehend the message. It will keep rehearsing the same scenario until you have practiced your response enough that your conscious mind can accept that you know how to handle it. The repetition is not cruelty. It is persistence. It is your guardian refusing to give up on protecting you. As you sleep night after night, your ancient brain is working. It is processing information. It is detecting patterns. It is preparing you for possibilities. It is strengthening neural pathways that will help you respond more effectively to real-world challenges. It is doing this work not because it is broken or malfunctioning, but because it is exactly what it evolved to do. It is doing its job with remarkable dedication and precision. Understanding this ancient system is the first step toward gratitude for your nightmares. You begin to see that the fear you feel is not arbitrary. It is not random. It is not evidence of mental illness. It is evidence of a system that cares deeply about your survival. It is evidence of intelligence operating at a level beneath conscious awareness. It is evidence of your brain's commitment to keeping you safe, even when that commitment manifests as fear. Trauma as information. How nightmares process what hurts us. When something deeply painful happens in your life, when you experience trauma or significant loss or violation, your mind does not simply file it away and move on. The experience becomes encoded in your nervous system. It becomes part of how your brain understands the world, and often it becomes the subject of your nightmares. This is not a sign that something is broken. This is a sign that something is being processed, integrated, healed. Trauma is information that your system has not yet fully digested. When you experience a traumatic event, your conscious mind might not be able to make sense of it. The experience might be too overwhelming, too contradictory to your beliefs about safety, too intense for your rational mind to process in the moment. So it gets stored in your body. It gets stored in your nervous system. It gets stored in the form of fragmented memories, emotional imprints, and protective responses that activate automatically when you encounter anything that resembles the original threat. Your nightmares about trauma are your mind's way of trying to process this undigested information. They are your consciousness attempting to make meaning out of something that felt meaningless. They are your brain trying to integrate the traumatic memory into your larger life narrative so that it no longer remains a foreign object lodged in your psyche. This process is not quick or easy. Trauma processing requires time, effort, and often professional support. But understanding that nightmares are part of this healing process changes how you relate to them. Instead of viewing them as evidence of damage, you can view them as evidence of healing. Instead of seeing them as the problem, you can see them as part of the solution. When you have a nightmare about a traumatic event you experienced, or about something that resembles it, something important is happening. Your mind is bringing the traumatic memory into consciousness in a controlled way. It is allowing your brain to process the information while your body is in a relatively safe state. You are not in real danger during the nightmare. You are in your bed, surrounded by the safety of your home and your normal life. But your mind is processing the danger as though it were real, activating your body's protective systems, rehearsing your survival responses. This rehearsal is crucial. When trauma happens, your normal response systems get overwhelmed. You might freeze, you might dissociate, you might not be able to fight or flee effectively. The traumatic memory gets encoded in a fragmented way, without clear beginning or end, without the sense of having survived and being safe now. Your nightmares are your mind's way of completing the cycle. They are your mind bringing the traumatic scenario to consciousness, activating your body's full response system, and allowing you to experience survival in a way that your conscious mind can integrate. Some research suggests that nightmares serve a therapeutic function for trauma survivors. The repeated activation of the threat response system, combined with the knowledge that you survived, helps your nervous system update its threat assessment. Your brain learns that you can face this threat and survive. Your body learns that the protective responses it developed actually worked. Over time, as the nightmare is rehearsed and reprocessed, it often becomes less intense. The emotional charge decreases. The scenario becomes more bearable. This is not because you are suppressing the memory or becoming numb to it. It is because your mind has successfully integrated the information. It has made sense of the trauma. It has filed it away as something that happened, not something that is happening. Different types of trauma generate different nightmare patterns. If you have experienced physical violence, you might have nightmares about being attacked. If you have experienced emotional abuse, you might have nightmares about rejection or humiliation. If you have experienced loss, you might have nightmares about separation. If you have experienced violation of your boundaries, you might have nightmares about being trapped or unable to move. These specific contents are not random. They are your mind selecting the scenarios that most directly relate to what you need to process. The intensity of nightmares often correlates with the intensity of the trauma. Someone who has experienced severe trauma will often have more vivid, more frequent, more disturbing nightmares than someone processing minor stress. This might seem counterintuitive. You might think that the mind would try to protect you from nightmares by making them less intense. But your mind is not trying to protect you from the nightmares. It is trying to protect you from future threats. It is trying to ensure that you are fully prepared, fully rehearsed, fully capable of handling the threat if it occurs again. The content of trauma nightmares often shifts over time. Immediately after a traumatic event, nightmares tend to be very literal. You dream about exactly what happened. But as time passes and your mind processes the trauma, the nightmares often become more symbolic. They might incorporate elements of the trauma with other elements from your life. They might show you variations on the traumatic scenario. This evolution is actually a sign of healing. It means your mind is no longer stuck on the exact details of what happened. It is beginning to integrate the experience into your broader understanding of yourself and the world. Many trauma survivors report that their nightmares eventually transform into something different. Instead of dreaming that they are helpless victims, they dream that they are fighting back, escaping, surviving. This transformation is profound. It represents your mind rewriting the narrative, not by denying what happened, but by rehearsing a different ending, a different possibility. Your mind is saying, here is what happened, but here is also what you are capable of. Here is the threat, but here is also your strength. It is important to understand that nightmares about trauma are not the problem. They are part of the solution. Trying to suppress them, medicate them away, or avoid thinking about them actually interferes with this natural healing process. What you need instead is to understand them, to listen to them, to allow them to do their work. This does not mean you should deliberately try to have nightmares, or that you should resist medical treatment if you need it. It means you should view nightmares as allies in your healing process rather than enemies to be defeated. The relationship between trauma and nightmares is one of the clearest examples of how your mind is trying to help you, even when the help feels overwhelming. Your nightmares are evidence that your brain refuses to let trauma remain unprocessed. They are evidence that your mind is committed to integrating every experience into your sense of yourself and your understanding of the world. They are evidence of a system that will not rest until you have processed what needs to be processed. This dedication, this refusal to abandon you even in the darkness of sleep, is something to recognize and honor. The threat detection system, why your mind never truly rests. Your brain has evolved an extraordinary ability to detect threats. This system is so sensitive, so finely tuned, so dedicated to keeping you alive that it operates even when you are not aware of it. It operates during sleep. It operates when you are distracted. It operates constantly, scanning your environment and your internal experience for signs of danger. This threat detection system is the primary engine driving your nightmares. At the foundation of this system is something called the reticular activating system, a network of neurons in your brainstem that acts as a filter for incoming information. This system is constantly evaluating whether the information it receives is significant or not. Is this threat relevant? Is this important for survival? Should this reach conscious awareness? The reticular activating system is biased toward threat. It is more likely to alert you to potential dangers than to potential benefits. This bias makes evolutionary sense. Missing a benefit might make you uncomfortable. Missing a threat might kill you. This threat detection system does not work the way your conscious mind works. Your conscious mind evaluates threats logically. You see a spider and you think, that spider is very small, it cannot hurt me, I have nothing to fear. But your threat detection system is not listening to this logical analysis. It is evaluating the spider based on ancient programming. It has learned that some spiders are dangerous. It has learned that quick reactions to sudden movements can save your life. So it activates your amygdala. It releases adrenaline. It prepares your body to react. This happens before your conscious mind has finished its logical analysis. This system becomes even more active during sleep. While you are awake, your conscious mind can override or modulate the responses of your threat detection system. You can tell yourself that you are safe even if your primitive brain is sounding alarms. You can take deep breaths and calm your nervous system. You can use logic and reasoning to talk yourself out of fear. But when you sleep, these conscious overrides are offline. Your threat detection system runs at full sensitivity. It activates freely. It generates scenarios of threat. It rehearses protective responses. This is why nightmares often feel so much more real, so much more overwhelming than the anxieties you experience while awake. The threat detection system is also highly efficient at pattern recognition. It can detect subtle similarities between current situations and past threats. If you have ever experienced being criticized harshly, Your threat detection system learns to recognize the signs of criticism. A certain tone of voice, a particular facial expression, a specific type of conversation might all trigger the system's alarm. This can happen so quickly that you do not consciously realize you are being triggered. Your body simply responds with the same protective activation that occurs when you are genuinely under threat. During sleep, this pattern recognition system is operating at high sensitivity, but without the conscious awareness that might moderate its responses. Your brain might detect something that vaguely resembles a threat from your past, and it will generate a full nightmare scenario. The pattern might be extremely subtle. You might not consciously understand why the nightmare was triggered, but your ancient brain detected something relevant to your survival, and it responded. This system evolved in an environment where threats were concrete and immediate. A predator approaching required a rapid physical response. A rival threatening your social status required quick action. Illness or injury required immediate protective measures. In this environment, a threat detection system that erred on the side of caution was advantageous. Better to be afraid of something that turned out to be harmless than to ignore a real threat. But modern life presents a different kind of threat landscape. You do not encounter predators. You do not face immediate physical danger very often. But you do encounter psychological threats, social threats, existential threats. You face situations where you might be rejected, humiliated, abandoned, or fail. You face uncertainty about the future. You face awareness of your own mortality. Your threat detection system did not evolve to handle these kinds of threats. It did not evolve to distinguish between genuine physical danger and social embarrassment or existential uncertainty. So your ancient brain treats psychological threats with the same intensity it would treat physical threats. A nightmare about being publicly humiliated activates your body's alarm system as though you were actually facing a crowd of people laughing at you. A nightmare about being abandoned activates your survival responses as though you were actually facing separation from your group. A nightmare about failure activates your protective systems as though you were facing actual harm. From the perspective of your ancient brain, these are all threats to your survival, because in the ancestral environment, social rejection and failure did threaten survival. This is why your nightmares often seem disproportionate to the actual challenges in your waking life. You might have a nightmare about being fired from your job that feels as intense as a nightmare about being attacked. You might have a nightmare about being rejected in love that activates your body as though you were in mortal danger. This is not because you are overreacting or because your mind is broken. This is because your threat detection system is working exactly as it was designed to work. It is treating threats to your psychological well-being and social security with the same urgency it would treat threats to your physical survival. Understanding this helps you develop compassion for your own mind. Your nightmares are not signs of weakness. They are signs of a system that takes your safety seriously. They are evidence that your brain is constantly working to identify and prepare you for threats. The fact that it sometimes overestimates threats, sometimes generates nightmares about things that are not actually dangerous, is not a flaw. It is a feature. It is the cost of having a threat detection system that errs on the side of caution. And that caution, that dedication to your safety, is what keeps you alive. During sleep, when your conscious mind is offline and your threat detection system is running at full sensitivity, your mind generates scenarios that allow you to practice responding to these threats. It is not trying to torture you. It is trying to prepare you. It is trying to ensure that if you do face rejection or failure or loss, you have already rehearsed your response. You have already activated your protective systems in a safe context. You have already practiced surviving. This understanding transforms your relationship with your threat detection system. Instead of viewing it as an enemy that generates unnecessary fear, you can view it as an ally that is dedicated to your well-being. It might be overly sensitive. It might generate false alarms. It might rehearse threats that never materialize. But it is doing this because it loves you, because it is committed to your survival, because it will not rest until it has prepared you for every possible threat to your well-being. The language of symbols. Decoding what your nightmares reveal when you wake from a nightmare, the details often seem bizarre. You were flying through a city made of water. You were being chased by something that kept changing form. You were trying to speak, but no words came out. The literal content of your nightmares often does not make sense, but this is because your nightmares are not speaking the language of logic. They are speaking the language of symbols, metaphor, and emotion. Learning to decode this language is essential to understanding what your nightmares are trying to tell you. The human brain is fundamentally a meaning-making machine. It constantly takes raw sensory input and converts it into meaningful patterns. During waking life, it does this primarily through language and logical thought. But during sleep, the regions of your brain responsible for language and logic are less active. Instead, the regions responsible for visual imagery, emotion, and memory become hyperactive. So your brain expresses itself in the language it has available. Images, feelings, symbols. A nightmare about falling, for example, is rarely literally about falling. It is about loss of control. It is about fear that you cannot prevent something bad from happening. It is about vulnerability. The specific feeling of falling might relate to a situation in your waking life where you feel out of control or unable to prevent a negative outcome. Your brain has selected the metaphor of falling because it perfectly captures the emotional essence of what you are experiencing. Similarly, nightmares about being chased are rarely about an actual pursuer. They are about something in your life that you are avoiding, something you are running from, something you are trying to escape. The specific thing chasing you might be a representation of an emotion you are avoiding, a responsibility you are fleeing, a truth you do not want to face. Your brain has created the nightmare scenario to represent the dynamic of avoidance and pursuit that is occurring in your psychological life. Nightmares about being trapped or unable to move often relate to situations where you feel constrained, where your choices are limited, where you feel you cannot express yourself or take action. The specific nature of the constraint in the nightmare might give you information about what area of your life feels constraining. Are you trapped in a small space? This might relate to feeling confined by circumstances. Are you paralyzed? This might relate to feeling unable to take action on something important. Are you unable to speak? This might relate to feeling silenced or unheard. The people who appear in your nightmares are also symbolic. Sometimes they are literal representations of actual people in your life, but often they are symbolic representations of different aspects of yourself or different forces in your life. A threatening figure in a nightmare might represent an internalized critical voice, or a part of yourself that you fear, or an aspect of authority that you find threatening. The specific features of this figure might give you clues about what it represents. Colors, settings, and objects in your nightmares are also significant. A nightmare set in a dark forest might relate to feeling lost or confused. A nightmare in your childhood home might relate to unresolved issues from that period of your life. A nightmare involving water might relate to emotions that feel overwhelming or out of control. These symbols are not universal. Different people might use different symbols to represent the same emotional content. But for each individual, there tends to be consistency. Your recurring nightmares often use the same symbols again and again because those symbols effectively represent the emotional content your mind is trying to process. One of the most common nightmares involves being unprepared for an important event. You are about to take an exam you have not studied for. You are about to perform in front of an audience, and you do not know your lines. You are going to give a presentation, but you have not prepared. This nightmare is not literally about being unprepared. It is about anxiety, about feeling inadequate, about fear of judgment or failure. The specific scenario your brain chooses depends on what kind of situation in your waking life triggers these feelings. Another common nightmare involves losing your teeth. This can represent loss of control, loss of power, loss of attractiveness, or anxiety about aging. It can represent fear of saying something you should not say, or regret about something you said. The specific meaning depends on your personal associations with teeth and what losing them means to you emotionally. Nightmares about death or dying are often not about literal death. They are about transformation, about endings, about something in your life coming to an end. They might represent the death of a relationship, the death of an identity, the death of a way of life. Or they might represent existential anxiety, awareness of your own mortality, confrontation with the fact that life is finite and uncertain. Learning to decode your nightmares requires you to approach them with curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of trying to forget them or suppress them, you can sit with them. You can ask yourself, what is the emotional essence of this nightmare? What feeling does it evoke? What situation in my waking life involves similar feelings? What am I avoiding, fearing, or needing to process? These questions can help you translate the symbolic language of your nightmares into conscious understanding. Your recurring nightmares are particularly valuable in this regard. If you have the same nightmare repeatedly, it means your mind is trying very hard to communicate something. The repetition is your mind's way of saying, "This is important. Pay attention." This pattern keeps showing up because it is relevant to your life. By decoding what the recurring nightmare represents, you gain insight into a persistent pattern or challenge in your waking life. It is also important to recognize that your nightmares are not necessarily predicting the future. They are not messages from some external force telling you that bad things will happen. They are expressions of your current emotional state, your current fears, your current challenges. They are your mind's way of processing what you are experiencing now. Understanding this helps you avoid catastrophizing about your nightmares. You do not need to fear that your nightmare about dying means you will die. You need to understand what the nightmare is telling you about your current emotional or existential state. The language of symbols is the language your mind speaks most fluently during sleep. By learning to decode this language, you gain access to profound information about yourself. You gain insight into your deepest fears, your most important values, your most significant challenges. Your nightmares become not sources of dread, but sources of wisdom. They become communications from your deeper self, trying to help you understand yourself more fully and navigate your life more effectively. Emotional rehearsal, practicing survival in the safety of sleep. Imagine if you could practice responding to difficult situations before you actually had to face them. Imagine if you could rehearse your responses to threats, challenges, and adversity in a safe environment where real consequences did not apply. This is exactly what your nightmares do. They are emotional rehearsal sessions conducted by your mind while your body is safe in bed. They are practice runs for survival. They are your brain's way of preparing you for what life might bring. When you face a challenge in your waking life, your response is influenced by everything you have experienced and learned before. If you have practiced responding to similar challenges, your response will be more effective. If you have rehearsed your emotional reactions, you will be better able to manage them. This is why athletes practice. This is why musicians rehearse. This is why public speakers do practice presentations. Repeated rehearsal creates neural pathways that make the response more automatic, more effective, more resilient. Your nightmares serve the same function. When you dream about facing a threat, when you experience the fear and the activation of your protective systems, when you process the scenario and survive it, you are creating neural pathways that will help you in your waking life. You are building resilience. You are strengthening your ability to face challenges. You are rehearsing your own strength. The specific content of your emotional rehearsal often relates directly to your life circumstances. If you are facing a social challenge, you might have nightmares about social rejection or humiliation. If you are dealing with significant responsibility, you might have nightmares about failure or being unprepared. If you are in a new relationship, you might have nightmares about abandonment or betrayal. Your mind is selecting the scenarios that are most relevant to your current life situation and giving you the opportunity to practice responding to them. This rehearsal serves several important functions. First, it allows you to activate your protective systems in a safe context. Your body gets to experience the full intensity of the threat response without actual danger. Your heart races, your muscles tense, your breathing becomes rapid, your mind becomes hyper-alert. All of these responses activate in the nightmare, but you are actually safe in your bed. This allows your nervous system to practice the protective response without the risk of harm. Second, the rehearsal allows you to practice different responses to the threat. In some nightmares, you might fight back. In others, you might flee. In others, you might freeze or negotiate. By practicing these different responses, by experiencing different outcomes, your mind expands your repertoire of possible reactions. If you actually face a threatening situation in your waking life, you will have more options available. Your mind will not be limited to a single rigid response. It will have practiced multiple possibilities. Third, the emotional rehearsal helps your mind update its threat assessment. When you have a nightmare about a threat and then wake up safely, your mind has evidence that you survived the threat. Even though the threat was imaginary, the survival is real. Your nervous system learns that you can face threats and survive. Over time, as you have repeated nightmares about the same threat, your mind accumulates evidence that you can handle it. This helps reduce the overall anxiety associated with that threat. Fourth, the rehearsal helps integrate fear into your broader sense of self. Many people try to avoid fear entirely. They try to pretend they are not afraid. They try to suppress the fear. But your nightmares do not allow suppression. They bring the fear into full consciousness. They force you to feel it, to experience it, to survive it. This integration is crucial. By allowing yourself to feel the fear in your nightmares, by experiencing it fully and surviving it, you begin to incorporate fear as something you can handle rather than something that will destroy you. The intensity of your emotional rehearsal in nightmares is important. If the nightmare were mild, if the fear were gentle, your mind would not be getting adequate practice. The intensity ensures that your nervous system is fully activated, that your emotional response is fully engaged, that the practice is meaningful. This is why you wake from nightmares with your heart pounding. This is why you wake covered in sweat. This is why you wake feeling as though you have just survived something genuinely threatening. Your mind is not trying to be gentle. It is trying to be effective. It is trying to ensure that the practice is intense enough to create lasting neural changes. Different types of nightmares provide different types of practice. Nightmares about being chased teach you to activate your flight response, to move quickly, to prioritize your survival. Nightmares about being attacked teach you to activate your fight response, to defend yourself, to assert your boundaries. Nightmares about being trapped teach you to activate your problem-solving response, to look for exits, to think creatively about escaping constraints. Each type of nightmare rehearses a different survival skill. The practice provided by nightmares is particularly valuable because it is emotionally realistic. You do not just imagine what fear feels like, you experience fear. Your body actually activates the fear response. Your nervous system is genuinely engaged. This makes the practice far more effective than simply thinking about how you would handle a situation. It is the difference between reading about swimming and actually being in the water. The emotional reality of the nightmare makes it powerful practice. Over time, as you have repeated emotional rehearsal through nightmares, your resilience increases. You develop more confidence in your ability to handle threats. You develop more flexibility in your responses. You develop more capacity to tolerate fear and uncertainty. These changes might not be obvious in your waking life immediately, but they are happening at the level of your nervous system. Your threat response system is becoming more sophisticated. Your ability to respond to challenges is increasing. This is why many people who work through their nightmares, who listen to them rather than resist them, report that they feel more capable and resilient in their waking lives. They are not more capable because the nightmares have shown them that bad things will not happen. They are more capable because the nightmares have given them practice. They have rehearsed their responses. They have experienced their own strength. They have learned that they can face fear and survive it. The emotional rehearsal that your nightmares provide is a gift, though it does not feel like a gift when you wake terrified in the middle of the night. But understanding that your nightmares are practice sessions, that they are your mind's way of preparing you for life, transforms how you relate to them. Instead of viewing them as torment, you can view them as training. Instead of wishing them away, you can appreciate what they are teaching you about yourself and your capacity to face life's challenges. The paradox of terror: why frightening dreams protect your waking life. There is a profound paradox at the heart of nightmares. The very thing that frightens you most in your sleep is actually protecting you in your waking life. The terror you experience in nightmares is not random or cruel. It is a protective mechanism. It is your mind's way of ensuring that you are prepared for genuine threats. Understanding this paradox transforms your entire relationship with fear. Consider what would happen if you never felt fear. If your threat detection system did not activate, if you did not experience anxiety or worry, If you moved through the world without any sense of danger, you would be extremely vulnerable. You might walk into traffic without looking both ways. You might trust people who are trying to harm you. You might take risks that would be genuinely dangerous. Fear, far from being a problem, is a crucial protective system. But fear in waking life can also be limiting. It can prevent you from taking risks you need to take. It can prevent you from growing, from trying new things, from moving toward your goals. So your mind has evolved a solution. It processes fear in your dreams. It rehearses threats in nightmares. It activates your protective systems in a safe context. By doing this, your mind is reducing the amount of fear you need to experience in waking life. Think about it this way. If you never had nightmares about failure, you might be paralyzed by fear of failure in your waking life. Every time you considered trying something new, the fear would be overwhelming because you had never rehearsed it. But because you have had nightmares about failure, because your mind has rehearsed the scenario of failing, and you have survived the dream, the fear in waking life is more manageable. You have already practiced it. You have already survived it. This is the paradox. The nightmares that frighten you most are actually reducing the amount of fear you need to experience while awake. They are processing fear so that you do not have to carry it all in waking consciousness. They are rehearsing threats so that you can move through your waking life with more freedom and less paralyzing anxiety. Research on this phenomenon is fascinating. People who experience nightmares often show better performance in stressful situations than people who do not experience nightmares. They show more resilience. They show better problem-solving abilities. They show more capacity to remain calm under pressure. This is not because the nightmares have shown them that bad things will not happen. It is because the nightmares have given them practice. They have rehearsed their responses. They have already activated their protective systems. They have already experienced and survived the threat in imagination. Consider someone who has a recurring nightmare about public speaking. They dream about standing in front of an audience and freezing, forgetting their words, being judged. This nightmare is frightening, but it is also protecting them. Because they have rehearsed this scenario in their dreams, when they actually have to give a presentation in waking life, the fear is more manageable. They have already practiced the scenario. They have already activated their nervous system's response. They know what fear feels like, and they know they can survive it. This explains why many high-performing people who accomplish great things, often report having significant anxiety and nightmares. They are not anxious because they are weak or broken. They are anxious because they are pushing themselves, taking risks, attempting difficult things. The nightmares and anxiety are part of the price of growth. They are the cost of attempting things that matter, and the nightmares are helping them succeed by rehearsing the challenges they face. The relationship between nightmares and waking performance is not perfectly linear. If you are experiencing nightmares so intense or so frequent that you are not sleeping well, that will interfere with your functioning. Sleep deprivation is genuinely harmful, but the nightmares themselves, even intense ones, are not the problem. They are evidence of a system that is working to protect you. There is another aspect to this paradox. The things that frighten you in your nightmares are often the things that matter most to you. You have nightmares about losing people you love because those relationships are precious. You have nightmares about failure because your goals are important. You have nightmares about rejection because belonging matters to you. The intensity of your nightmares is proportional to the importance of what you care about. This means that the most intense nightmares are often about your deepest values. Understanding this helps you appreciate your nightmares in a new way. They are not evidence that something is wrong with you. They are evidence of your capacity to care deeply. They are evidence of your commitment to things that matter. They are evidence of your engagement with life. The person who never has nightmares might be someone who does not care deeply about anything, who is not taking risks, who is not attempting things that matter. The paradox extends further. The nightmares that frighten you most are often the ones that protect you most effectively. A nightmare that activates your fear response powerfully is more likely to create lasting neural changes than a mild nightmare. The intensity ensures that the practice is meaningful. The terror ensures that your nervous system is genuinely engaged in the rehearsal. So the very thing you hate most about your nightmares, their intensity, is what makes them most protective. This does not mean you should seek out nightmares or be grateful for them in the moment. When you wake from a nightmare terrified, the appropriate response is not to celebrate, but as you move through your day, as you reflect on your nightmares, you can recognize the protective function they serve. You can understand that the fear in your dreams is reducing the fear you need to carry in your waking life. You can appreciate that your mind is working tirelessly to prepare you for challenges, to build your resilience, to protect you. The paradox of terror is that the most frightening dreams are often the most protective. The nightmares you wish would go away are actually the ones most dedicated to your well-being. They are your mind's way of saying, I care about you. I care about your survival. I care about your success. So I am going to help you practice. I am going to help you prepare. I am going to help you face life with more confidence and less paralyzing fear. Neurotransmitters in darkness, the chemistry behind nocturnal fear. When you have a nightmare, something remarkable is happening in your brain at the chemical level. Specific neurotransmitters are being released. Specific neural networks are activating. Specific regions of your brain are communicating in patterns that generate the experience of fear and the content of the nightmare. Understanding the chemistry of nightmares helps you appreciate the sophistication and intentionality of the process. During the rapid eye movement phase of sleep, the phase where most vivid dreams occur, your brain chemistry shifts dramatically. Norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter associated with alertness and attention, decreases significantly. This is why you are not aware of your surroundings during dreams. Your brain is not receiving information from your senses. It is focused internally. Serotonin, a neurotransmitter associated with mood regulation and calm, also decreases. This allows your brain to explore emotional content without the dampening effect of serotonin's calming influence. But while these neurotransmitters decrease, others increase. Acetylcholine, which is crucial for memory consolidation and emotional processing, becomes highly active during REM sleep. This is one reason why dreams, particularly emotional dreams, feel so vivid and so memorable. Acetylcholine is helping your brain encode these experiences into memory. The nightmare is not just being experienced, it is being consolidated, integrated, stored in a way that will influence your future responses. The amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, becomes hyperactive during REM sleep. This is particularly true during nightmares. The amygdala is flooding your system with signals of threat. It is activating your stress response systems. It is triggering the release of cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormones that prepare your body to respond to threat. This is why you wake from nightmares with your heart racing, your muscles tense, your body flooded with stress hormones. Your amygdala has been working at full intensity, treating the dream scenario as a genuine threat. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for rational thought and executive function, is less active during REM sleep. This is why you do not question the logic of your dreams while you are dreaming. You do not think, this does not make sense, I should not be afraid of this. Your prefrontal cortex is offline or operating at reduced capacity. Your amygdala is running the show. This is why nightmares feel so overwhelmingly real, so emotionally intense. Your rational mind is not available to modulate the emotional response. This chemical and neural configuration during nightmares is not accidental. It is precisely calibrated to serve the function of emotional processing and threat rehearsal. The decrease in norepinephrine allows your brain to focus internally without distraction. The decrease in serotonin allows you to experience fear without dampening. The increase in acetylcholine ensures that the emotional experience is encoded into memory. The hyperactivity of the amygdala ensures that your protective systems are fully activated. The reduced activity of the prefrontal cortex ensures that the emotional experience is not modulated by logic. This chemistry creates the conditions for powerful emotional processing. Your brain is not just thinking about threats, it is feeling them. It is activating your entire body's response system. It is encoding the experience into memory in a way that will influence your future responses. This is far more powerful than conscious contemplation of threats would be. This is why nightmares change you in ways that waking worry does not. The emotional intensity, The bodily activation. The chemical state of your brain during nightmares makes them powerful agents of change. Different types of nightmares involve slightly different chemical patterns. Nightmares involving threats to your social status or belonging might involve different patterns of neurotransmitter release than nightmares involving physical threats. Nightmares involving loss might involve different patterns than nightmares involving failure. But in all cases, the basic pattern is the same. Your amygdala is activated, your stress response system is engaged, your brain is processing threat, and the experience is being consolidated into memory. The stress hormones released during nightmares are particularly important. Cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. These hormones prepare your body for action. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes rapid, your muscles tense, your blood vessels constrict, your digestion slows. All of these changes are designed to prepare you for action in response to threat. During a nightmare, these changes occur even though you are lying in bed and no action is actually occurring. But your body is being rehearsed. Your nervous system is practicing its response. Over time, repeated exposure to nightmares about the same threat changes your brain chemistry. Your nervous system becomes less reactive to similar threats in waking life. This is a process called habituation. Your amygdala learns that it has responded to this threat many times, and you have survived each time. Gradually, its response becomes less intense. The stress hormones are released less abundantly. Your overall anxiety about the threat decreases. This is one reason why nightmares, even though they are frightening, often serve a therapeutic function. The repeated activation of your threat response system, combined with survival, helps your nervous system update its threat assessment. The chemistry of nightmares also explains why certain medications can affect nightmares. Some antidepressants, for example, increase serotonin levels. Because serotonin has a dampening effect on emotion, increasing serotonin can reduce the intensity of nightmares. But this also reduces the intensity of the emotional processing. It might make the nightmares less frightening, but it might also reduce their effectiveness as a processing mechanism. This is a trade-off that some people need to make for their overall well-being. But it is important to understand that suppressing nightmares also suppresses the emotional processing they provide. The chemistry of your brain during nightmares is a reflection of your mind's commitment to your well-being. The specific patterns of neurotransmitter release, the specific activation patterns of neural networks, all of these are calibrated to serve the function of processing threat and building resilience. Your brain is not malfunctioning when you have a nightmare. It is operating at peak efficiency in service of your survival and growth. Understanding this chemistry helps you develop appreciation for the sophistication of your own mind. The nightmare is not a random firing of neurons. It is a coordinated, intentional process involving multiple neurotransmitter systems and multiple brain regions all working together to process emotional information. It is evidence of an intelligence operating within you, an intelligence dedicated to your well-being, an intelligence that works tirelessly even while you sleep. Memory consolidation, how nightmares strengthen your resilience. When you experience something important, something emotionally significant, your brain does not instantly store it in long-term memory. Instead, there is a process called memory consolidation. During this process, the experience is replayed, reorganized, integrated with existing knowledge, and gradually transferred from short-term working memory into long-term storage. This process is crucial for learning, and nightmares play a significant role in this process. REM sleep, the phase of sleep where most vivid dreams occur, is particularly important for memory consolidation. During REM sleep, your brain replays experiences from the day. It integrates new information with existing knowledge. It reorganizes memories. It strengthens important neural connections. Nightmares are often part of this process. They are your brain selecting emotionally significant experiences and processing them intensively. When you have a nightmare about something that happened to you or something you are concerned about, your brain is consolidating the memory of that experience or concern. It is processing it emotionally. It is integrating it into your broader understanding of yourself and the world. This is why nightmares often occur when you are dealing with significant life challenges. Your brain is working overtime to process the new information, the new threat, the new emotional reality. The process of memory consolidation during nightmares serves several important functions. First, it helps your brain extract meaning from experience. A traumatic event, a significant loss, a major challenge, these things do not come with built-in meaning. Your brain has to construct meaning. It has to understand how this experience relates to your values, your beliefs, your sense of self. Nightmares are part of this meaning-making process. By replaying the experience, by exploring it emotionally, your brain is constructing understanding. Second, memory consolidation during nightmares helps your brain update its threat assessment system. When you experience something threatening, your brain updates its database of threats. It learns that this type of threat exists. It learns what warning signs to look for. It learns what protective responses might be effective. This learning happens during sleep, particularly during REM sleep and nightmares. Your brain is not just having the experience, it is learning from the experience. Third, memory consolidation helps your brain integrate difficult experiences into your sense of self. When something traumatic or challenging happens, it can initially feel like a foreign object in your consciousness. You might feel, this happened to me, but it is not really part of who I am. Nightmares help integrate these experiences. By replaying them, by processing them emotionally, your brain gradually incorporates them into your life narrative. They become part of your story, not something separate from you. The specific way your brain consolidates memories during nightmares is fascinating. The emotional content is consolidated intensely. Your brain is making sure you remember the emotional significance, but the exact details of the experience might be less precisely consolidated. This is actually adaptive. You do not need to remember every detail of a threat to be protected by it. You need to remember the emotional significance, the warning signs, the protective responses. Your brain prioritizes consolidation of this information. Over the course of many nights, as you have repeated nightmares about similar themes or similar threats, your brain consolidates increasingly sophisticated understanding of how to respond. It is not just learning that the threat exists, it is learning nuanced information about the threat. It is learning different ways to respond. It is building a complex model of the threat and your capacity to handle it. This is why people who have worked through significant trauma often report that their nightmares have changed over time. They have become less intense, less frequent, less overwhelmingly frightening. This is because the memory consolidation process has completed. Your brain has finished integrating the information. It has updated its threat assessment. It has consolidated the lesson. The strengthening of resilience through memory consolidation is not just a matter of emotional processing. It is a matter of neural reorganization. As you have repeated nightmares, as you have repeatedly activated your protective systems, as you have repeatedly experienced threat and survived, your brain is physically changing. Neural pathways are being strengthened. New connections are being formed. Your brain is becoming more capable of handling threats. This is not metaphorical. This is literal brain change happening at the neurological level. Sleep deprivation interferes with memory consolidation. If you are so disturbed by nightmares that you are not sleeping, if you are waking up so frequently that you are not getting adequate REM sleep, then this important consolidation process is being disrupted. This is one reason why addressing nightmares sometimes requires professional help. Not because nightmares are bad, but because if they are preventing sleep, they are preventing the consolidation process that makes them beneficial. The relationship between nightmares and memory consolidation explains why nightmares often increase during times of significant life challenge or change. When you are processing something important, your brain needs more REM sleep. It needs more time for consolidation, so you might have more frequent nightmares, more intense nightmares. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that your brain is working hard to process something significant. It is a sign that important consolidation is occurring. It also explains why people often report that working through trauma, while difficult, leads to increased resilience and capacity. The nightmares associated with trauma processing are part of the consolidation process. By having the nightmares, by experiencing the emotional activation, by surviving the dream scenarios, you are consolidating the memory of the trauma in a way that integrates it into your sense of self and your understanding of your own capacity. Understanding memory consolidation helps you appreciate nightmares as part of a crucial learning process. They are not obstacles to learning, they are instruments of learning. They are your brain's way of ensuring that important information is consolidated, integrated, and stored in a way that will improve your future functioning. The nightmare is not a problem. It is a solution. It is your brain's solution to the problem of how to process, understand, and integrate important experiences. The Guardian's wisdom, reframing fear as your mind's gift. Up until this point in our exploration, we have been examining the mechanisms of nightmares, the systems they engage, the functions they serve. Now we arrive at something more fundamental, the opportunity to reframe your entire relationship with fear itself. This reframing is not about denying fear or pretending it is pleasant. It is about recognizing fear as wisdom, as a gift from your mind, as evidence of your mind's dedication to your well-being. When you approach your nightmares with this reframing, something shifts. Instead of seeing them as enemies to be defeated, as problems to be solved, as symptoms to be suppressed, you begin to see them as messages. You begin to see them as your mind, communicating with you in the language of emotion and image. Your nightmares become teachers, they become guides. They become expressions of your mind's commitment to your survival and your growth. This reframing is not new. Throughout human history, across many cultures, nightmares and dreams have been understood as meaningful communications. Indigenous cultures often saw dreams as messages from the spiritual realm. Medieval mystics saw nightmares as opportunities for spiritual growth. Modern psychology has increasingly recognized dreams and nightmares as meaningful expressions of the unconscious mind. What we are doing now is grounding this ancient wisdom in modern neuroscience. We are showing that the nightmares your ancestors understood as meaningful are indeed meaningful. They are meaningful expressions of your mind's functioning. When you reframe fear as wisdom, you begin to recognize what fear is actually telling you. Fear is not saying you will be harmed. Fear is saying something matters. Fear is saying you care about this. Fear is saying you are taking a risk. Fear is saying you are growing. The intensity of your fear is proportional to the importance of what you are doing or what you care about. The person who never feels fear is either someone who does not care about anything or someone who is not challenging themselves. This reframing does not mean you should pursue fear or deliberately create frightening situations. It means you should recognize fear when it appears, whether in your nightmares or in your waking life, as evidence that something important is happening. It means you should approach your nightmares with curiosity rather than dread. What is my mind trying to tell me? What threat is it preparing me for? What growth is it facilitating? What do I care about so deeply that my mind is rehearsing scenarios related to it? The guardian metaphor is particularly powerful here. Imagine a guardian who is dedicated to your protection. This guardian knows your vulnerabilities. This guardian knows what threatens you. This guardian knows what you care about. This guardian works tirelessly even while you sleep to prepare you for challenges, to rehearse your responses, to strengthen your resilience. This guardian sometimes frightens you, sometimes wakes you from sleep with intense emotions, but this guardian does these things out of love, out of commitment to your well-being. This is what your mind is doing when you have nightmares. Your mind is your guardian. It is working for you. It is dedicated to your survival and your growth. The nightmares are not signs that your guardian has failed. They are signs that your guardian is doing its job with intensity and commitment. They are signs that your guardian takes your well-being seriously. When you recognize your mind as your guardian, you begin to develop gratitude for your nightmares. This gratitude might not come immediately. It might take time, but as you understand the function nightmares serve, as you recognize the intelligence and dedication they represent, gratitude becomes possible. You might not be grateful for the fear in the moment, but you can be grateful for the protection, for the preparation, for the growth that the nightmares facilitate. This reframing also changes how you respond to your nightmares. Instead of trying to suppress them, you can work with them. You can ask your mind what it is trying to tell you. You can listen to the messages your nightmares contain. You can honor the protective function they serve. You can cooperate with your mind's efforts to help you rather than resist them. There is a particular kind of wisdom that comes from understanding fear this way. It is the wisdom that comes from recognizing that your mind is not your enemy. Your mind is not trying to hurt you. Even when your mind generates nightmares, even when your mind activates your threat response systems, your mind is trying to help you. This recognition is transformative. It allows you to move from a stance of resistance to a stance of cooperation. It allows you to work with your mind rather than against it. The guardian metaphor also helps you understand why you might feel reluctant to let go of your nightmares. When you have had nightmares for a long time, they become familiar. They become part of how you understand yourself. The thought of not having them might feel strange or even threatening, but recognizing your mind as your guardian helps you understand that if your nightmares decrease or change, it is not because your guardian has abandoned you. It is because your guardian has decided that you no longer need this particular form of protection or preparation. Your guardian is still there. It is still committed to your well-being. It is just expressing that commitment in different ways. Understanding your mind as your guardian transforms the entire experience of having nightmares. Instead of being something that happens to you, something you are a victim of, nightmares become something you are engaged in. They become a dialogue between different parts of your mind, a conversation about your well-being and your growth. They become evidence of the extraordinary sophistication and dedication of your own consciousness. Integration and acceptance, moving from resistance to understanding. For many people, the initial response to nightmares is resistance. You want them to go away. You try to forget them. You avoid thinking about them. You might take medication to suppress them. You might practice relaxation techniques specifically designed to prevent nightmares. This resistance is understandable. Nightmares are frightening. The natural response to something frightening is to avoid it. But this resistance also prevents the very processing and integration that nightmares are designed to facilitate. The shift from resistance to acceptance is not about resigning yourself to suffering. It is not about giving up and allowing nightmares to dominate your life. It is about recognizing that resistance itself is causing suffering. It is about understanding that the pain of nightmares is often compounded by the resistance to nightmares. When you stop resisting, when you stop trying to suppress or avoid the nightmare, something shifts. The nightmare becomes more workable. It becomes something you can be with, rather than something you are fighting against. This shift is particularly important because resistance interferes with the processing that nightmares are trying to facilitate. When you are resisting a nightmare, when you are trying to forget it or push it away, you are interfering with memory consolidation. You are preventing your brain from doing the work it needs to do. You are making the nightmare less effective rather than more effective. You are prolonging the process rather than facilitating it. Integration means allowing the nightmare into your consciousness. It means acknowledging that you had the nightmare, that it was frightening, that it matters. It means sitting with the experience rather than trying to escape it. It means asking what the nightmare is trying to tell you rather than trying to silence it. Integration does not mean you have to enjoy the nightmare. It means you have to stop fighting it. One practical approach to integration is to recall your nightmare after you wake, rather than trying to forget it immediately. You can write down the nightmare. You can draw images from it. You can talk about it with someone you trust. You can sit with the emotions it generated and notice what they are telling you. This might seem counterintuitive. It might seem like you are reinforcing the nightmare by paying attention to it. But actually, you are completing the process. You are allowing your mind to finish its communication. Another approach is to practice curiosity about your nightmares. Instead of asking, "Why do I have these terrible nightmares?" you can ask, "What is my mind trying to tell me?" Instead of, "How can I make these nightmares stop?" you can ask, "What am I afraid of? What am I avoiding? What do I need to understand?" These questions shift your relationship with the nightmare from adversarial to collaborative. Acceptance also involves recognizing that nightmares are a normal part of human experience. You are not broken or damaged because you have nightmares. You are not weak or mentally ill. You are human. And part of being human is having a threat detection system that works, that is sensitive, that generates nightmares as part of its functioning. Acceptance means making peace with this reality. It means recognizing that having nightmares is not a problem to be solved, but a phenomenon to be understood. This does not mean accepting suffering. If your nightmares are so intense or so frequent that you are not sleeping, if they are significantly impacting your functioning, professional help is appropriate. But even in these cases, the goal is not to eliminate nightmares entirely. The goal is to help your nervous system become more regulated so that you can sleep adequately while still allowing the processing that nightmares provide. Integration also involves integrating the content of your nightmares into your waking consciousness. If you have recurring nightmares about a particular threat, you can think about that threat while awake. You can consider how you would actually respond to that threat in real life. You can practice coping strategies. You can remind yourself of resources you have. This waking processing complements the sleeping processing. Together, they help you integrate the threat into your sense of yourself and your world. There is a particular kind of peace that comes from accepting your nightmares. It is the peace of no longer being at war with yourself. It is the peace of recognizing that your mind is not your enemy. It is the peace of understanding that the very system that frightens you is also protecting you. This peace does not mean the nightmares disappear. It means you stop suffering from them. You stop resisting them. You begin to work with them. The shift from resistance to acceptance often happens gradually. You do not have to force it. You do not have to suddenly love your nightmares or feel grateful for them. You just have to gradually reduce your resistance. You have to gradually allow curiosity to replace judgment. You have to gradually recognize that your nightmares are trying to help you. Over time, as you practice this acceptance, as you work with your nightmares rather than against them, something shifts. The intensity might decrease. The frequency might change. The emotional charge might lessen. These changes happen not because you are suppressing the nightmares, but because you are allowing them to complete their function. The grateful mind, transforming your relationship with darkness. Gratitude is one of the most transformative emotions available to human consciousness. It shifts your perspective. It opens your heart. It connects you to something larger than yourself. And gratitude is particularly powerful when applied to the things you initially resisted or feared. When you can find gratitude in the midst of difficulty, something fundamental changes. This is what we explore now: how to develop genuine gratitude for your nightmares, not as an intellectual exercise, but as a lived experience. Gratitude for nightmares begins with recognition. You recognize that your nightmares are not enemies, but allies. You recognize that the fear they generate is not cruelty, but care. You recognize that the intensity of your nightmares is proportional to the importance of what your mind is protecting. You recognize that your mind, your beautiful, complex, ancient mind, is working tirelessly for you. When you truly recognize this, gratitude becomes natural. It is not something you have to force. It flows from genuine understanding. The darkness of nightmares is not something to fear. It is something to welcome. Darkness is where deep work happens. It is where your mind processes what it cannot process in the light of day. It is where your consciousness explores possibilities, rehearses responses, integrates experience. The darkness of sleep, the darkness of nightmares, is not absence. It is presence of a different kind. It is presence of your deeper mind, your ancient mind, your protective mind. When you develop gratitude for this darkness, when you welcome the nightmares as part of your inner work, something shifts. You begin to sleep differently. Instead of bracing yourself against sleep, fearing what nightmares might come, you relax into sleep. You allow yourself to be present with whatever arises. You trust that your mind is working for you. You trust that the nightmares, if they come, are serving a purpose. This trust allows deeper sleep. This trust allows more effective processing. This trust itself becomes therapeutic. Gratitude also involves recognizing the specific gifts that your nightmares bring. They bring awareness. They bring information about what you care about. They bring insight into your vulnerabilities and your strengths. They bring practice in facing what frightens you. They bring resilience. They bring growth. When you start paying attention to these gifts, when you start noticing how your nightmares have made you stronger, how they have prepared you for challenges, how they have deepened your understanding of yourself, gratitude becomes unavoidable. Consider someone who has had nightmares about failure and who then faces a significant challenge in waking life. Because they have rehearsed failure in their dreams, they are able to face the challenge with more equanimity. They are not paralyzed by fear of failure. They have already experienced it in imagination. They have already survived it. They can recognize, I have faced this fear before. I can face it now. The nightmares have given them this gift. The fear that initially seemed cruel has turned out to be protective. Or consider someone who has had nightmares about abandonment and who then navigates a relationship loss. The nightmares have prepared them. They have rehearsed the pain. They have practiced their emotional responses. They are able to grieve the loss without being completely overwhelmed by it. The nightmares have given them this gift. The fear they initially resisted has turned out to be preparation. Gratitude for your nightmares is also gratitude for your own mind. It is recognition of the extraordinary gift of consciousness, of a mind that can work on your behalf even while you sleep, of a system that is so dedicated to your well-being that it will not rest. When you truly appreciate this, when you truly recognize the gift of having a mind that cares this much about you, gratitude becomes profound. This gratitude is not naive. It does not deny the difficulty of nightmares. It does not pretend that they are pleasant. It is a mature gratitude that recognizes both the difficulty and the value. It is the kind of gratitude that a student might feel toward a demanding teacher who pushes them to grow. It is the kind of gratitude that an athlete might feel toward challenging training that builds strength. It is the kind of gratitude that someone might feel toward a friend who tells them difficult truths they need to hear. The grateful mind approaches nightmares differently. Instead of asking, "Why do I have these nightmares?" the grateful mind asks, "What is my mind trying to teach me?" Instead of, "How can I get rid of these nightmares?" the grateful mind asks, "How can I honor what my mind is doing for me?" Instead of, "Why is my mind punishing me?" the grateful mind asks, "How is my mind protecting me?" This shift in questions leads to a shift in experience. The same nightmare that previously caused dread now becomes an opportunity for learning. The same fear that previously felt like suffering now feels like information. The same intensity that previously felt unbearable now feels like intensity in service of something important. Developing genuine gratitude for your nightmares is a process. It does not happen overnight. But as you understand the mechanisms we have explored, as you recognize your mind as your guardian, as you begin to see the gifts your nightmares bring, gratitude becomes increasingly possible. And as gratitude grows, your entire relationship with sleep, with fear, with your own mind transforms. You begin to sleep more peacefully. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to recognize yourself as stronger, more resilient, more capable than you previously believed. Practical alchemy, techniques for honoring your nocturnal protectors. Understanding the wisdom of your nightmares is important, but understanding alone does not transform experience. You need practices, techniques, concrete ways to honor your nightmares and work with them. These practices are not about eliminating nightmares or controlling them. They are about deepening your relationship with them, extracting their wisdom, and allowing them to serve their protective function more effectively. The first practice is dream journaling. Upon waking, before you do anything else, write down your nightmare. Write what you remember about the setting, the characters, the emotions, the sensations. Write it without judgment, without trying to make it make sense. Just capture what you experienced. The act of writing serves multiple purposes. It helps consolidate the memory. It honors the nightmare by taking it seriously. It allows your conscious mind to engage with the content. And over time, as you write your nightmares, patterns often emerge. You begin to see recurring themes, recurring symbols, recurring messages. The second practice is symbolic exploration. After you have written your nightmare, spend time thinking about what the symbols in your nightmare might represent. What does being chased represent for you? What does being trapped mean? What do the specific people or creatures in your nightmare represent? Do not try to arrive at the one correct interpretation. Symbols are personal. Your amygdala uses symbols that have meaning to you specifically. Instead, sit with the symbols and notice what associations arise. What feelings do they generate? What situations in your waking life do they relate to? The third practice is body awareness. When you wake from a nightmare, notice what your body is experiencing. Your heart might be racing, your muscles might be tense, your skin might be covered in sweat. Instead of trying to calm these sensations immediately, spend a moment noticing them. Thank your body for activating to protect you. Notice that despite the intensity of the alarm, you are actually safe. You are in your bed. You are not in danger. This simple acknowledgement helps your nervous system update its threat assessment. It helps your body learn that even when it activates fully to threat, you can be safe. The fourth practice is gratitude meditation. Sit quietly and bring to mind one of your nightmares. Instead of trying to change it or fix it, simply acknowledge it. Say to yourself, "My mind created this nightmare to protect me. My mind is working for me. My mind cares about me." This practice might feel strange at first, but as you repeat it, as you genuinely try to feel the truth of these statements, something shifts. Your relationship with the nightmare changes. The fear decreases. Understanding increases. The fifth practice is threat analysis. Take a nightmare that recurs for you. Write down what threat the nightmare represents. What is your mind warning you about? Then, in waking consciousness, think about how you would actually respond to that threat. What resources do you have? What strategies could you use? What support could you access? This practice takes the nightmare out of the realm of pure emotion and into the realm of practical problem solving. It shows your mind that you understand the threat and that you have ways to address it. The sixth practice is visualization for resilience. Recall a nightmare. Then, in your mind, visualize yourself responding to the threat in the nightmare. Visualize yourself being brave, being resourceful, being capable. Visualize surviving the scenario. Visualize yourself safe afterward. This practice is not about denying fear. It is about rehearsing your own strength. It is about showing your mind, "I understand the threat, and I am capable of handling it." This practice complements the rehearsal that your nightmares already provide. The seventh practice is creative expression. You can draw images from your nightmares. You can paint them. You can write poetry about them. You can dance them. You can sing them. Creative expression allows you to engage with the content of your nightmares in a different way. It allows your conscious creative mind to work with the material that your ancient mind has generated. It often leads to insights and transformations that pure analysis does not. The eighth practice is dialogue with your mind. This is a more advanced practice. Before sleep, you can write a letter to your mind. You can say, "Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for the nightmares that helped me grow. I am listening. I am learning. I am grateful." You can ask your mind what it is trying to tell you. You can open a dialogue. Some people find that after engaging in this practice, their nightmares change. They become less intense. They become more meaningful. They become more clearly aligned with what the person is actually dealing with. The ninth practice is community and conversation. Talking about your nightmares with someone you trust can be profoundly healing. It removes the shame and isolation that often surrounds nightmares. It allows someone else to witness your experience. It often leads to insights as you hear yourself describe the nightmare. If professional support is needed, working with a therapist who understands nightmares as meaningful rather than as symptoms to suppress can be transformative. The 10th practice is self-compassion. Remember that having nightmares does not mean you are broken. It means you are human. It means your mind is working. It means you care about things that matter. Treat yourself with kindness when you have had a difficult nightmare. Acknowledge the difficulty. Honor your mind's effort. Recognize your own strength in surviving the nightmare. These practices are not meant to be done all at once. You can choose one or two that resonate with you and start there. You can experiment with different practices. You can develop your own practices based on what works for you. The point is to move from passive suffering of nightmares to active engagement with them. The point is to transform your nightmares from something that happens to you into something you are in relationship with, something you can learn from, something you can honor. The cycle completes. How understanding brings peace to sleep. We have traveled far on this journey of understanding. We have explored the mechanisms of nightmares, the ancient wisdom of your protective systems, the ways your mind works to help you. Now we arrive at the place where understanding transforms into lived experience. This is where knowledge becomes peace. This is where fear transforms into something bearable, even valuable. When you truly understand that your nightmares are your mind's way of protecting you, something fundamental shifts in how you sleep. The night, which previously might have felt like a danger to be endured, becomes a space of work, of growth, of deep care. Your mind is working for you in the darkness. Your consciousness is engaging with challenges, processing experiences, building resilience. Sleep becomes not an escape from life, but a deepening engagement with life. The peace that comes from this understanding is not the peace of nightmares disappearing. Some people do find that as they accept and work with their nightmares, the nightmares decrease. The mind seems to say, "You understand now, you are listening. I do not need to shout so loudly." But this is not guaranteed. Some people continue to have nightmares throughout their lives. The peace does not come from the nightmares stopping. It comes from the fear stopping. It comes from the resistance stopping. It comes from the understanding that even if you continue to have nightmares, they are serving a purpose. They are protecting you. They are helping you grow. This peace is particularly evident in how you wake from nightmares. Previously, waking might have felt like relief mixed with dread about what the nightmare meant, or fear that you might have another one. Now, waking from a nightmare can feel like waking from an important conversation with yourself. You might feel the residual fear, yes, but you also feel something else: recognition. You have just communicated with your deeper mind. Your mind has just told you something important. You can feel grateful for the information even as you feel the fear. The cycle completes when you recognize that the nightmare is not the end of something, but the beginning. It is not the conclusion of a threat, but the initiation of processing. After the nightmare, you have the opportunity to think about what it was telling you. You have the opportunity to learn. You have the opportunity to prepare. The nightmare is the first step in a cycle of understanding that continues into your waking life. This cycle becomes increasingly efficient as you work with your nightmares. Your mind learns that you are listening. It learns that you understand its protective function. It learns that you are willing to do the work of integrating what it is showing you. And as your mind learns this, it can be more precise in its communication. The nightmares become more clearly aligned with what you actually need to process. The intensity can decrease because your mind does not need to shout so loudly. You are listening. There is a particular peace that comes from recognizing that you are not alone in this process. Your mind is with you. Your ancient brain is with you. Your protective systems are with you. Even in the darkest moments of the most frightening nightmare, you are not alone. You are being cared for. You are being protected. This recognition can be profoundly comforting. The peace also comes from recognizing that fear itself is not the enemy. Fear is information. Fear is protection. Fear is evidence of caring. When you can hold fear this way, when you can recognize it as something that is trying to help you rather than something that is trying to hurt you, the quality of fear changes. It still feels intense, it still activates your nervous system, but it is no longer accompanied by the suffering of resistance. It is no longer accompanied by the suffering of confusion about what it means. It is simply information. It is simply your mind communicating with you. As you sleep night after night, as you have nightmares and wake and process them and learn from them, a different relationship with sleep develops. Sleep becomes something you can trust. You can trust that your mind is working for you. You can trust that even if nightmares come, they are part of the process of your own healing and growth. You can relax into sleep knowing that your mind has your back, even in the darkness, especially in the darkness. This peace extends beyond sleep. As you develop trust in your own mind, as you recognize its dedication to your well-being, you begin to trust yourself more in waking life. You recognize that the same mind that generates nightmares to protect you is also guiding you in other ways. You begin to listen to your intuitions, your instincts, your inner knowing. You begin to recognize the wisdom that is operating within you at all times. The completion of the cycle is not an ending, but a transformation. The nightmares do not go away, but they become integrated. They become part of how you understand yourself and your world. They become part of your inner landscape. They become something you can work with, learn from, honor. And in that transformation, the fear that once seemed unbearable becomes bearable. The darkness that once seemed threatening becomes a space of deep work and deep care. Awakening to protection, living with gratitude for your inner guardians. As we arrive at the final part of our exploration, we return to where we began, the recognition that your nightmares are not enemies but guardians. But now you understand this not as an intellectual concept, but as lived reality. Now you know from the depths of your being that your mind is working for you. Now you can live with genuine gratitude for the protection that your nightmares provide. This awakening to protection is not something that happens once and then is complete. It is something that unfolds over time. It is something you return to again and again. Each time you have a nightmare, each time you wake in fear, you have the opportunity to remember, this is my mind protecting me. This is my guardian working. This is care, even if it does not feel like care in the moment. Living with gratitude for your inner guardians means recognizing that your nightmares are not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received. It means approaching sleep not with dread, but with openness. It means approaching your nightmares not with resistance, but with curiosity. It means recognizing that the most frightening dreams are often the most important ones, the ones where your mind is working hardest on your behalf. This gratitude extends to all the ancient systems within you that generate nightmares. It extends to your amygdala, your threat detection system, your limbic system, your entire protective apparatus. These systems are not outdated remnants of our evolutionary past. They are active, engaged, dedicated to your survival and well-being right now. They are part of who you are. They are part of your wisdom. As you live with this gratitude, as you genuinely appreciate the work that your mind is doing, your experience of nightmares continues to transform. Some people find that nightmares become less frequent. Some find that they become less intense. Some find that they remain the same in frequency and intensity, but feel completely different because they are no longer accompanied by suffering. The suffering came from resistance, from confusion, from viewing the nightmares as enemies. When those things fall away, the experience changes. Living with gratitude also means recognizing that your nightmares are not just about protecting you from external threats. They are also about helping you grow, helping you develop, helping you become more fully yourself. The nightmares about failure are not just warnings about failure. They are invitations to develop your capacity to handle setback. The nightmares about rejection are not just fears about being alone. They are invitations to develop your capacity for resilience in relationships. The nightmares about loss are not just expressions of grief. They are invitations to develop your capacity to hold love and loss simultaneously. This understanding of nightmares as catalysts for growth is profound. It means that the very thing you have feared most has been trying to help you become the person you want to be. It means that your mind has been working not just to keep you safe, but to help you flourish. It means that your nightmares are not obstacles to your growth, but instruments of your growth. As you move forward from this exploration, as you return to your daily life and to your nights, you carry with you a different understanding. You understand that the darkness of sleep is not empty or threatening. It is full of activity, full of care, full of intelligence. You understand that your mind is a loyal guardian that will never abandon you. You understand that the fear in your nightmares is not cruelty, but commitment. The invitation now is to practice what we have explored, to approach your nightmares with the understanding you have developed, to listen to them, to honor them, to work with them, to recognize them as communications from your deeper self, to feel genuine gratitude for the protection they provide, to recognize yourself as protected, supported, cared for, even in the darkness of night. This is the awakening that we have been moving toward, the recognition that you are not alone in the night. Your mind is with you. Your ancient wisdom is with you. Your protective systems are with you. They are working for you. They are dedicated to your well-being. They are your guardians in the darkness, and they will never stop working to help you survive, grow, and flourish. As you sleep tonight, and on all the nights to come, you can rest knowing this. You can rest knowing that whatever nightmares might come, they are coming from a place of care. You can rest knowing that your mind is on your side. You can rest knowing that the very systems that generate fear are the same systems that keep you alive and help you grow. You can rest in the knowledge that you are protected. You can rest in gratitude, I would like to know, where are you as you listen to this? What time is it there? What has this exploration awakened in you? I invite you to share your thoughts, your experiences, your insights about nightmares and what they mean to you. Your story, your understanding, your journey with your own inner guardians is valuable. It is worth sharing. Thank you for joining me on this journey of understanding. If this experience has brought you insight, peace, or a new relationship with your nightmares, I would be grateful for a like and a subscription to Relaxing Science. Your engagement helps this message reach others who might benefit from understanding their nightmares as guardians rather than enemies. Also, let us know if you would like to see more content exploring the wisdom of the mind, the meaning of our experiences, the intelligence that is always working within us. As you return to your daily life, as you return to your nights, carry with you the understanding that your mind is your greatest ally. Your nightmares are not your enemies, they are your guardians. They are expressions of an intelligence that cares deeply about you. They are gifts, even when they feel like threats. Honor them, listen to them, be grateful for them. And in that gratitude, in that listening, in that honoring, you will find peace. You will find understanding. You will find yourself becoming stronger, more resilient, more capable of facing whatever life brings. Sleep well tonight. Sleep knowing that your mind is working for you. Sleep knowing that even in the darkness, even in the most frightening nightmares, you are protected. Sleep in gratitude. And when you wake, whether from peaceful dreams or from intense nightmares, remember, you are guarded. You are cared for. You are protected by the most dedicated guardian you could ever have, your own beautiful, ancient, infinitely committed mind. Total.